This thing to pop back up.
It's okay to be broken. It's okay to laugh and cry. 'Cause when you try to see the problem, that means you figure it out. And you can say that I'm crazy, that you're thinking already. But I'm telling you, baby, get up and get out. Get up and get out. Yeah. And you can say that I'm crazy, that you're thinking already. But I'm telling you, baby. And you can say that I'm crazy, that you're thinking already.
And now it's time to get unmasked. Please welcome your host, Pamela Elaine Nichols and Cheryl A.S. Hurley.
Good afternoon, everyone. Your girl Cheryl and your girl Pam, we are here again for Unmasked Live. Pam, do you want to say anything to our audience?
Hello, everyone. Back again another week.
Yes. Welcome, everyone, to Feel Better, Look Better, and Live Better, formerly known as Unmasked Real Talk Live. This is a place where Pam and I come and we live true to the quote by Sigmund Freud, unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Each week, we aim to give you permission to unmask here so you can be inspired to feel better, look better, and live better out there. Now, we want you to stay until the end and be eligible for our special raffle. And today's raffle, ladies, you don't want to miss it, is a Mama Massage gift certificate. That's right. It's all about helping you to relax so that you can feel better. We know we just celebrated Mother's Day for those that are moms. However, we don't want you to just stop just for that one day. We want to encourage you and inspire you to keep taking care of yourself. Now, every week we do a challenge based on the topic of this show. Now, this challenge from last week's topic ends today. We ask that you post what you did to improve your mental health. For those of you who participated and you did it, kudos to you because we joined in and we had an absolute ball. Now, we appreciate all of you who took part of that challenge, that you posted, we commented. Thank you. Now, a new challenge starts today, Tuesday, and ends next Monday, the day before the live show. Now, we want you to participate by sharing your experience with the challenge in our private Facebook group. This week's challenge, are you ready? Affirm yourself as a mother each day for 7 days. I'm already on it. Write the affirmations down on a piece of paper for each day. Read your affirmation out loud. We want you to read it out loud. Then we want you to post it in our private Facebook group if you want us to support your affirmation. After 7 days, you will have 7 affirmations on one piece of paper. You might want to frame it, or you might want to write it on your wardrobe or write it on the mirror on your wardrobe. We all love a good recipe. Whether or not you are a mom, whether or not you have a recipe, find something. We want you to be intentional to find something to post and share about mental health for moms. Every one of us came from a mom. Maybe your mom was mentally healthy or mentally unhealthy. You still can share a recipe to help others. Now, for today's post post your comments below as we unmask today's topic. Ask your questions and we can address them as we go on. Now, a big shout out to our special guest last week, none other than our girl Danielle Bullock, who boldly shared her story about mental health. If you did not watch her story, scroll down in our group feed and find the video. We interviewed her on May 2nd. Thanks again, Danielle, for being there, being brave, and being brave enough to share your truth. Your truth inspired and is still inspiring. So today, Pam is going to introduce today's topic. If you don't have your seatbelts on, put your seatbelts on because we're getting ready to unmask. Yeah.
Yeah. So, hello, welcome back, everyone. We're so glad that you take the time out to be with us. It really honors us. As today's topic is a serious one, I think, but one that has to be addressed. It is motherhood and mental health. Are you winning or losing? Here's a quote I want to share with you. It's an anonymous quote, and it goes like this: I felt guilt. I felt shame. I felt alone because I was a mother and wanted nothing more than not to be a mother. Who would sympathize with that confession? Anonymous. Whoo, that's a serious confession.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Let's frame this topic by giving you a little background and maybe some facts that might be helpful to you as you're thinking about what you want to ask, and as you're thinking about the takeaway that you want from today's topic. Mental health challenges occur for a mother when she delivers, and many years after she delivers. Tons of research about mental health and motherhood is about postpartum depression, which is absolutely real. And some of you moms listening might have had postpartum depression or know that your mom had postpartum depression. But more research is absolutely needed to help moms' mental health beyond the postpartum phase. Mom's mental health is affected in all stages of motherhood. I found very little about mother's mental health when she never wanted to be a mother,
Mm,
right? And there are some of us, maybe many of us, who never really saw motherhood in their picture, but they became a mother. And sometimes I see some of these women in the grocery store when they're screaming at their kids. I've also have an aunt who would tell me how her mother would tell her, if I didn't have you, I would have been doing other things in my life. So that's a real problem and it affects a child's psyche. But I didn't find a lot of good information on that reality for some moms.
mhm.
Also, talking about being unhappy and unfulfilled as a mother still isn't an accepted confession. Who talks about that freely when it is real and affects mental health? There's a psychologist named Dr. Paula. I'll call her Dr. Paula because her last name is really hard to pronounce, but she's a psychologist on women's mental wellness. And she says about 85% of her clients struggle with unattainable expectations. Is that you? These high expectations are costly, resulting in maternal guilt, lower self efficacy beliefs, and higher stress levels. More than that, some mothers fear social penalties for falling short of these high standards, perhaps feeling like an outsider or being looked down upon by other parents.
Yep.
To make matters worse, efforts to live up to these standards only worsen perfectionism, which is rampant among mothers.
Mhm.
Dr. Paula further shares that many women tend to have perfectionist personalities. Raise your hand if that's you. Okay, put it down. Uh, yeah, perfectionist personalities leading to never feeling good enough. This pressure leads to a dangerous thinking pattern of I should or I must. She also adds, when our thinking patterns get that way, I should, I must, we add additional stress on ourselves, which impacts our feeling like we are winning or losing at motherhood. Now, I coin motherhood on three levels, and mental health challenges can occur on all three of these levels.
Mhm.
I call it the entry level mother or entry level motherhood, where your kids are newborns or very young. And then there's the mid level motherhood, which your kids are teens, dear God. And then the C-suite level motherhood, where your kids are adults. All of those three levels, you can have mental health challenges. And we want to talk a little bit about that today. And we want to get so honest and so real about this topic so we can be free. So Cheryl, what did you think about all that delicious That delicious facts and information.
When you were sharing that information, what came up for me were these 3 levels, and can I just tell our viewers that I have experienced mental health challenges at all 3 levels,
Mm,
at all 3 levels, but as you were sharing, the one that really resonated with me, that came up for me, and it was probably the furthest, was during the time of infancy of my daughter when she was a
yes.
newborn.
Mhm.
Between I think she was about 3 months old, I
Mm,
recall experiencing postpartum depression,
yeah.
but it didn't happen right away. It happened sometime later. But my children were 8 years apart, and I remember taking her
Mm,
to my existing workplace at that time, and a friend of mine looked at me, and she was like, "Oh, your baby's so beautiful." And they were saying all these wonderful things, but I was just in a low place. And she
mm,
told me that weekend, she said, "I want you and your husband to drop the baby off for me. And I want you guys to go out and do something." And
mm,
she later told me, she said, "When I saw you, I saw the challenge, the mental health challenge that you
mm,
were struggling." What I was struggling with is because I didn't have them back to back, or stair steps, as some people would call them, but it was 8 years apart, and I felt like I was losing myself. I
mm.
felt like I had lost myself somewhere, and it was like I don't. I was just in a state of just total mental
Yeah.
stress. So I
Mhm.
said that, I'm like, oh, so I've been at all 3 levels, but that's the one that came up for me quickly. Yeah.
Wow, wow. Yeah, for me, the 2 levels, the level for me was the mid level.
Mhm.
Well, actually, it was the entry level too, because when my kids were young, before they became teenagers, that's when I really had a breakdown on the bathroom floor, which I've shared freely in the past.
Mhm.
Breakdown in the bathroom floor because I knew that I felt like such a failure
Mhm.
because I had these 4 kids. I was staying at home with them. I really did not want, that wasn't like in my vision for myself to be a stay-at-home mom, but I was. And I kept up the front that everything was just great. It's fine. And no longer keep up that front, and had a serious breakdown. And I think I still struggled even into, most of them are adults now, but I still kind of struggled
Mhm.
because I felt like I wasn't giving them everything I could because I knew I was struggling somewhere in my own mental wellness. And I think it was only after I did, like Danielle talked about last week, getting
Mhm.
some therapy, getting some help,
Yeah.
that helped me feel a lot better about um, my role as a mother, and less guilty about my role as a mother.
Yeah.
But I know there are a lot of women out there, mothers out there, who do struggle with
Mhm.
feeling guilty, feeling inadequate, feeling like that their kids are on the front burner of their lives and they are once again on the back burner.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And Pam, something else that I think is important to also bring up, because when we have children and you talk about the entry level and you talk about the mid level, but oftentimes there's also, I have to say, the C-suite level when they are
Mm.
adults, because we think once they pass that 18 or that 21 mark, okay, they're on their own. And I experienced the even greater challenges, I will
Mhm.
have to say, during
Mm.
the adulthood of my children,
Mm.
that, we want to put it out there. And I love the fact that we're exposed in all 3 levels, but that's another level because we think in our minds, okay, they're grown now. They're out
Yeah.
on their own and they could do X, Y, and Z. And I found some of my greatest challenges have been more in the phase of adulthood,
Mm.
other two. And that's the stage
Oh.
that most people don't think or anticipate having to experience that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really real. And I think that another problem to this is that
Mhm.
even when they're in adulthood, we're
Mhm.
still in the same thinking of it's my kids first, it's my kids first, it's my kids first. And either we're involved in their lives when they maybe want us to be a little less involved, or we're checking in on them, or why haven't you come to see me? Or I mean, we're still dealing with something internally when we're putting our kids first. We're still dealing with something internally. We have a comment here that
Yeah, I love that comment. Do you see it? I struggled with the perfectionist personality. I know I raised my hand when she said it earlier, which led to a burnout and lack of self care for myself.
mm,
That was key for me. That was key for me.
Yeah, and then that perfectionist personality, there
Yeah.
really is this fear.
Mhm.
As the psychologist pointed out, is a fear of not being enough, not measuring up. I don't know about others, but I always felt that other mothers were criticizing me, that I wasn't doing enough, that I wasn't, I mean, on the outside, everything looked great. My kids, they always had the hair combed, I always tried to look my best, but I still felt like they were looking at me and watching me. And I think sometimes moms, I hate to say this, we can be so critical of other moms. And I think it has to do with our perfectionist personality that we put on other people, other moms. What do you think?
I agree, and because this is Unmasked Live Real Talk, I'm gonna
Mm,
have a real moment. I've
mm,
done that, and I've done it with my own daughter, who has a
mm.
mother, and what happens is that there are times when I was in a position to listen and hear her. Not only do we have the tendency to criticize, or either be critical of other moms, we could do it to our own daughters or sons for that
So
matter.
true.
And that's something that
Mm,
I
mm,
had
mm.
to learn, but I learned that during adulthood. And when I said some of my mental health challenges has been in the adulthood, because I had to learn how to just be comfortable being mom and taking care of
Yeah.
myself and not being concerned about or consumed with what was going
Mm,
on with my children. So for the moms that are out there that did that,
mm,
I'm owning it. I did that. I took
mm.
to a whole nother level. And if
Wow.
I had not recognized that, can you imagine what that would look like for my children?
I know. I know. This is so true. And I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm like, oh dear, I think I've done the same thing too. Even though my children don't have any children yet, but just sort of being critical of them and being pointing out what's wrong with either the way they're dressed or the way their hair is or the comments that they made or they're not doing well enough in school, and that's my own stuff.
Mhm.
That
Exactly.
was my own stuff.
Yes. And
Putting on them.
exactly. You know what I appreciate is that word, and I used it, and you revisited and recapped it. Be mindful of what she said. Critical. It wasn't that we were being critical.
Yes, and think about all the times that we have been criticized by our mother
Uh,
and that we then criticize our child.
ooh,
I mean, we carry that stuff and it's all affects our mental well-being. Oh, so we have a comment. I felt like that, Pamela, with my first child. I don't remember what I said. Um, that this Facebook viewer was making reference to. But if you want to say a little bit more about that, that would be great. The person that made that comment. While we get more comments coming in, maybe we should. You see the time, Cheryl?
yeah.
Maybe we should go to our unmasked question.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So
Mm.
let's ask the unmasked question. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Our viewer did respond, Pam. Mhm.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
She
All
said, I
right.
felt like my mom was critical or judgmental of me
Oh.
as a new mother. Yeah. I had
Mm,
to
mm,
repent.
mm.
I had to
Yeah.
repent.
And my question would be, how did that make you feel? And
Ooh.
how did that affect your own mothering of your children? Um, that would be really important because this is where we start making changes that we get in touch with. I am feeling a certain way
Yeah.
about my own mother, about my own mothering. And once you get in touch with that, then you can start making changes. You can start doing things differently. And to be able to recognize that you were criticized and criticizing
Mhm.
and judgmental,
Mhm.
that means you have an opportunity to change that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what we want.
exactly, exactly. So you wanna ask our unmasked question?
Okay, yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. I saw Kayla take it right back. Okay, Kayla, here we go. What do you do if you feel like you have failed or are failing as a mother, or your mother failed, is failing you? What do you do? And our viewer said to the how to make you feel. It made me feel inadequate and unsupported.
Mm,
And see, those feelings are related to your mental health. And whether we want to admit it or not, those feelings carry over with how we deal with our own children or
mhm,
our own child. We can't help it. We can help it, I should say. We can do something about it. But whoa, those are some real
Mhm,
feelings. Inadequacy and unsupported are tough.
mhm.
But certainly can, now that she is aware
Yeah.
that she felt inadequate and unsupported, she can make a change in how she sees herself and how she parents her child.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into the question here on the table. What to do if you feel like you have failed or are failing as a mother, or your mother failed and is failing you? What do you do? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna take a stab at what I think you do. First is you admit it. You
Ooh,
have to admit that this is a feeling of failure. And once you admit, and admitting it doesn't mean it's true. Admitting it is just to be okay with the feelings that come with failure so
mhm,
that you can move beyond those feelings
mhm.
and do something about it. If somebody fails at a test in school, that doesn't mean that you are a failure. It
That's
just means you missed a few things there. And you can always go back if you have a good teacher and make a change, learn more,
yeah,
study harder, study smarter, and then retake the test. I
yeah,
think in some ways it's relevant to motherhood that if you recognize you're not doing all that you can do, and maybe sometimes you're really being a little bit too hard on yourself anyway,
yeah,
then what can you do?
yeah,
What can you do differently to
yeah.
make a difference?
Yeah. As I listen to you, and I just have to share what's coming up for me. And
Mm,
even though we are the co-developers of Think Again, I've shared with you on oftentimes how I've had to use a lot of what we teach in my own life. And one of
yeah.
the things when we talk about mental wellness, our mental health, and our children, I had to
Mhm.
change the story that I was telling myself because sometimes in some of the stressors, I would tell my story, tell myself it's my fault or I'm
Mm.
responsible for this. So it was actually causing me to stay in this rabbit hole. And when I began to change the story that I was telling me about myself as a mother and begin to say,
Oh.
I feel good about me as a mother.
Mm.
Feel or what they might think or say, I feel good about me. And it began to
Yeah.
change the trajectory of how I perceive myself because oftentimes, it's the story that we tell ourselves. So it
I
doesn't
l
matter what somebody else is saying. I was telling myself that I was a failure.
It now that is really good, and you're right. We in our Think Again course, we talk about
Yeah.
how to change the way you see a thing because when you change the way you see a thing, the thing changes. And I love what you just said about changing that story. And I want to adopt that too because I still tell myself the story. If I hadn't had that breakdown on the
Mhm,
bathroom floor in front of my kids,
mhm,
maybe they would maybe they would have less issues,
mhm.
maybe they would have feel better about themselves. Maybe my daughter would have the boyfriend she keeps saying she wants. I think it's my fault that somehow I've damaged them
Mhm.
because but I need to tell myself a new story about that, Cheryl.
Yeah, yeah, tell yourself you deserve to tell yourself a new story about that, and like I said, unmasking, keeping it real, keeping it 100%, I told myself those stories.
Mm.
Nothing changed until I changed the story.
I love that, and we want every person watching and
Yes,
watching later
yeah,
to get what Cheryl just said. You have to change the story
yeah,
you're telling yourself
yeah,
about your mothering,
mhm,
you being mothered,
mhm, mhm.
and what you want to do and what you're capable of doing moving forward with your own children and your own mental health. Got to tell yourself a new story.
Yeah,
I love that, Cheryl. I
yeah,
think that's spot on.
yeah.
Um, and I added it to our takeaways.
Oh,
so so
I love it, I
we're
love it.
gonna throw that into to our
E
takeaways, which we probably should
exactly,
give
yes,
away now. We should start with the takeaways. You
exactly,
you want to
exactly.
do the first one?
The first one is a perfect mother does not exist. I'm going to repeat that one because we want you to really get it. A perfect mother does not exist. We want you to change the story you tell yourself. All mothers have flaws. I don't care how perfect we think we are. All mothers have flaws. Flaws are what makes us unique. Let that sit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sit with that. Change. The perfect mother does not exist.
Yes. Yeah.
Whew.
Tell them the second one.
I feel like I'm being set free just on that one. Okay, the second one is take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Stop neglecting yourself in favor of what you think your family needs. Okay,
Yeah.
you want to give your kids the best of yourself. And the only way to give the best of yourself is to make sure you're putting yourself first.
Yes. 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 Yes.
That's a hard one for us.
It's a
It's a
hard,
hard one, but it's
but
absolutely necessary.
don't we tell people make yourself a priority?
Make it that's exactly right.
A priority. If they
Mhm.
want to do something you don't want to do, it's okay for you to say, no, I don't want to do that. I need to do
That's exactly
something.
right.
And not feel guilty about it. And
Mhm, mhm.
about it. The third takeaway is set simple goals. Think about what you wish your days were like. Just get that in your mind. And then whatever it is that you're missing from your life, write it down. Then we want you to put a realistic plan together on how you can make those things happen. So when
Mhm.
we say realistic, we're intentional about it. Make it something that's realistic.
Yeah, and get somebody to help you if you're struggling with coming up with something realistic.
Yes.
And you can have a friend, someone you trust, another mother, and come up with something realistic. Okay, the last is really what we like to call a bonus takeaway.
Yes.
Schedule time alone. Okay? Have you ever gone someplace by yourself? Just you and yourself? Okay. If you haven't, pick the same day and time every week and schedule it on your calendar. Then be proactive of this time, or protective, I should say, of this time, because you need it. This is creating what we call me time moments, which will refresh and renew and restore you and allow you to reunite with your children and your family in new and healthy ways. Oh my goodness, Cheryl, look at the time. It's time to move on
It
to the
it really is. It really
raffle.
is. Pam, I just want to say one thing about the me time. That me time is so important that when you schedule it, make sure if you invite somebody in, be intentional who you invite into your space because that's your me time. So now
Okay,
it's time for our raffle. Yes.
raffle. $50 gift card. Massage.
For a mama massage.
Oh,
Yes. Who's our lucky winner?
Carrie. Okay, so Carrie, congratulations, Carrie. Carrie, what we need you to do is send us a private message in the Facebook group and give us your mailing address so we can send you the $50 gift card for a massage.
Yes.
Nice work. Okay. Shall we close it out, Cheryl?
Yes, we should. Yes, we should. Now, what we want you to do, that remember the challenge for this week. Affirm yourself as a mother each day for 7 days. We want you to write the affirmations down on a piece of paper for each day. And lastly, read your affirmation out loud. Read it out loud. Share with the group to help someone else. And we have, again, the private Facebook community, which you're a part of. We want you to share because it could be an encouragement to someone else. As we come together each and every week, next week, we will unmask another topic. What do you want to talk about? Not only do Pam and I come up with topics, but we want to hear what it is that you want to talk about. Put your suggestions in the chat here, or you could post it in our private Facebook group, and we will do these shows just for you. We will see you all next week. We want to thank you again for joining us for Unmasked Real Talk Live. And until next Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, have an amazing day. Go out and be great.
And you can say that I'm crazy,